Hey, it's Jordan. I'm delighted to be joined by a native of Long Island, where I'm from, Aletha Shapiro. And I wanted to talk to you because I was sent this morning a clip that I thought was just like outrageous of doing your right as a citizen. You were at a town hall for Congressman Tom Suozzi. He's from Long Island, definitely. I would call him a corporate Democrat, and you wanted to express, some grievances. So before we get into the questions, let's play the clip of what happened.
I'm not sure how a politician like you, who's taken over $1 million from corporate and super PACs in just the last 2 election cycles, is graded an A, when the grade and the premise of this organization is based on injecting corporate money. It's not just that Tom funds his campaign with corporate money, it's that his policies and votes repeatedly benefit the corporate donors, who in turn give him more money. I'm getting to it, but I'm giving you background information. Tom took at least $87,000 from military contractors that profit from his military funding votes, and at least $66,000 from companies that profited off his vote to expand detention centers.
That's enough. This is a speech.
Tom received at least $126,000 from the healthcare industry and refused to support any plan that would negatively impact profits like Medicare for All, which is overwhelmingly popular. Instead, he supports plans that keep costs high for individuals. Tom is also one of the few Democrats who do not take the microphone from me. I have a right to speak. I am still a question.
Hey!
Tom is also one of the few Democrats to break with the party and support the repeal of Dodd-Frank and continues his efforts to weaken bank regulations. He's putting our financial security at risk for the
private property.
Excuse me. Everybody.
What are you scared of?
Can you just have your comments to me? Everybody have your comments to me. Take it easy, Phil. Okay. I've been doing this for a long time. I'm used to this. I'm not going to unilaterally disarm and not raise money the way I'm legally permitted to raise money. I'm not going to unilaterally disarm and not raise money the way I'm legally permitted to raise money.
First of all, before we get to that absurd manhandling, can you kind of give a background? You actually volunteered on Congressman Suozzi's campaign a few years ago.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me and letting me tell my story. I think it's really important for people across the country to hear from a woman's voice on what happened. I think it's a lesson that everyone can learn from. So I volunteered for Congressman Suozzi. Well, let me back up. At the time of the election in 2016, I was completely, the typical story, uninvolved politically. I didn't even know my congressman's name. I really didn't know anything about politics. I didn't even know how many senators we have in New York. I was completely ignorant. I'm a mom with 4 kids. I was just doing the mom thing and, trying to get through the days. So at the time of the election, obviously, like a lot of people, I woke up. So right after the election, Congressman Suozzi held his first town hall in February of 2017. And from that moment on, I was woke and I was hooked to get involved.
Mm-hmm. And Suozzi, kind of similar to traditional Democratic Party folks, talks a good game on, the middle class and this and that. But after volunteering for his campaign, you started to find out, oh, well, the rhetoric's not matching the money he's taking.
Exactly. I mean, I thought that if you're a Democrat, you're a good guy, and I have over the last 3 years, I've become more educated and I've become way more involved and I've went to tons of protests and, such an education process. And this summer, I started to realize that not all Democrats are created equal and that we need to elect better Democrats. And so when I started to really, pay attention and seeing how, things were changing over the summer with like immigration votes and just the talk started happening about corporate money, and people started announcing their candidacies for 2020. I started to pay attention and start to understand about this whole money and politics thing. And so I was, very wooed by Congressman Suozzi. He's a great talker. He's a great schmoozer. He talks a really good game. He held town halls all the time, and I started noticing it was always the same script every time. He would talk about being primaried from the left and that you have to have civility and work together. He's the vice chair of the Problem Solvers Caucus. And, for someone who doesn't really know a lot and you're not paying attention, it sounds good. You're kind of like, yeah, civility. But these are not normal times right now. While civility is great, we should not be making deals with the devil, with the Republicans. And so that's what he does. He works hand in hand with the Problem Solvers Caucus. And oftentimes he votes on behalf and votes with the Republicans instead of voting on behalf of his constituents' voices, which is so offensive in these times. Mm-hmm. So that was just a really big eye-opening experience for me. And the biggest aha moment for me was when he went down to the border with a bunch of the Problem Solvers and a bunch of the Congress delegation back in July. And I actually went to the border a week after they went, after AOC went and some of the squad went. Me and my friend at the time, who was actually going to be challenging Congressman Suozzi, Melanie Dorigo, we went to the border to volunteer. And it was right after that humanitarian vote happened in June. And the Problem Solvers Caucus was primarily responsible for that humanitarian vote, the protections for migrants being stripped. And so that was the moment where I was enraged. After I saw what happened at the border, I don't know how he could do that, how he can vote to strip protections for migrants, increase money for ICE, and just take away the oversight that Pelosi was trying to, put in the bill. Mm-hmm. And so that was the aha moment for me.
So I want to get to the town hall, because all I hear from the traditional Democratic Party is we have to appeal to women of color and transgender people and all of these kind of groups, which I'm all for. I agree. But you're a woman of color. You go to a town hall. Nobody said you have to ask a question in 10 seconds. I mean, mm-hmm. You're paying his salary. So you stand up, I believe, after several men stood up and asked whatever their questions was. And yeah, you pointed out that there were some things that you kind of found objectionable. And all of a sudden, some white dude comes up and, I mean, from the looks of it, I wasn't there. I mean, touches you and gets in your face. And in the video, I mean, you see Suozzi, instead of trying to stop it and say, let her finish, is kind of laughing it off. I mean, how did you feel? And it seems like, and I've experienced this because I go on the campaign trail and I'm fairly progressive. People, some older establishment people don't like the way I do things. The crowd was not so happy that you dared point out his donations and that kind of thing. I mean, how did you feel in that moment? It was really one against a lot.
Yeah, I mean, there was probably around 10 questions that were asked. I was the fourth question. So there were 3 men before me and a woman after me and then 5 other men. Well, the most shocking part about it is that every single man spoke for a minimum of 5 minutes. Someone on 15 minutes, rambling, asking very important questions. I did not speak for more than 40 seconds. I was attacked at the 1:20 mark. It's absolutely enraging and horrifying. And, I couldn't believe it was happening to me, it was such a horrifying experience that time slowed down when it was happening. And all I kept on thinking was, oh my God, nobody's going to stop this. Why is nobody jumping in? Why is nobody helping me? And, unfortunately for Congressman Suozzi and for the men and the man who attacked me, they messed with the absolute wrong woman, because I've been to protests. I had just finished this weekend, the Indivisibles book. I know how to bird dog politicians. I go to DC all the time. I ask senators and congresspeople all the time. So they thought that they were going to intimidate me and silence my voice as a woman of color, as a woman, but they messed with the wrong woman. And so, when I saw the man coming at me, my instinct was, to rip the microphone back and stand my ground. And that's exactly what I did. And I didn't know, at that split second, I had to make a decision. Do I persevere or do I stop? I didn't know what to do. And so my reaction was to keep on going. Did it just get interrupted?
You froze for a second.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
sorry.
You're back. Go ahead.
Okay. So, so my reaction was to keep on going. And, the crazy thing is that, like the fight or flight, some people run into the burning building and some people run out. And even if you were like shocked and taken aback, like Congressman Suozzi's reaction was to let it happen. Even if I was asking him a hard question, he could have been like, all right, let's hear her out. We can't do this. But instead he allowed it to happen. He was a bystander, and not only was he a bystander, but he enjoyed it. You could see him smirking in the videos because luckily we have different angles. You could see him making eye contact with people in the crowd. I don't know who it was. He was laughing. And at the end, he made a joke on my behalf about the situation, and the whole crowd laughed. And it was just so horrendous. And it reminded me, I went to Kavanaugh to protest Kavanaugh for 2 weeks, in 2018. And it reminded me what a lot of the women were saying about the laughing. They remember the laughing. I just couldn't believe that a room of men would do this to a woman, how a man would attack a woman. And quite honest, the part that upset me the most was the women in the crowd that abandoned me and were heckling me and, cheering the men on. I just cannot believe that it happened to me. It was so horrifying. And truthfully, to me, it signals like the epitome of misogyny, toxic masculinity, and like the pervasiveness in our society of just silencing women's voices and silencing women of color. And, if anybody knows me, I use my social media all the time to uplift marginalized communities and to talk about these topics. And so it's almost like everything that I have went through in the last few years, all the education and experience I've had led up to this moment where it was all these different, progressive movement, platforms and issues were all like in one moment. And so I feel like I need to use my voice to show people that this is not okay. You do not silence women who are speaking truth to power. And also to just show people, how you go to a town hall, how you ask your representatives questions. Some people said, oh, why was she reading off her paper? Why did she take so long? I don't think people realize what town halls are like. A lot of people read off papers because they want to have their facts. Some people are nervous, and many people, all of the men, gave a lot of background information before you ask your question. You don't just go into your question. You have to build it up. You have to explain to people in the room why you're asking this question. And so what was mind-boggling for me was I was a Democrat in a room of Democrats. And I don't even know if these people made the connection. The point of my question was lost because I was assaulted and I was attacked. So I think that people didn't even realize what I was trying to get at. Congressman Suozzi takes over $1 million of corporate PAC money. How do we know that he's representing our voices and not his corporate donors? And I was trying to teach the people and explain that this is not okay. And we should expect better from our Democrat representatives. And at one point he actually said to me, I need this money because I need to win a campaign and beat the people that you are supporting. And so, yeah, damn right. I'm supporting progressives. I'm supporting Melanie Dorigo because that's what progressives are fighting for, getting corporate money out of politics. Yeah, instead of saying I'm fighting against Republicans who are ruining our country, he's fighting against the good guys.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.